Hey, everybody. I believe we're live. My name is Peter Chittum, and welcome to another edition of Salesforce Ben webinars. We're super excited for this webinar today, which is about Agentforce and AI adoption, practical tips. And I couldn't be more excited by the guests that we have today. So before we go there, though, let's see what we have in our slides. Oh, yeah. So a little bit about us, Salesforce Ben. Many of you know us about for our amazing blog and resources that we have online on the website. But did you know we also have a newsletter? We do live events as well as these virtual events. We have a YouTube channel, and I promise we are going to be bringing back the podcast. I even have an idea of what that's going to be now. We've been talking about it. We have tons of resources. We have tons of channels. If you don't like to read, but you like to watch or you like to listen, come check us out on one of these channels and definitely sign up for the newsletter. It is the most expedient way to get direct access to what's going on in Salesforce Ben. And of course, we need to take a moment to thank our sponsor. And I'm realizing I actually don't have my sponsor's script up, which was really bad form of me. I didn't get that set up. So let me quickly do that. Oh, and that just did it the wrong way. Okay, total presenter. Yeah, total presenter amateur hour right here. So let's get this going again here, and we will. Seriously, we'll get this going in a moment. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to go there, and then I need to go presenter view from the beginning, and then I need to do that. That's much, much better. And we can even switch that to full screen, maybe. We'll just go with that. Okay, so seriously, can I reboot this thing? All right, Chetu is a certified Salesforce partner that specializes in designing and developing tailored Salesforce and Agentforce solutions. Their focus is on optimizing CRM performance, enhancing customer engagement, and driving measurable business growth across industries. Chetu's team of certified Salesforce developers brings deep expertise across every aspect of the Salesforce ecosystem. Their Agentforce implementations stand out as the cornerstone, helping organizations adopt Salesforce's next generation agentic AI platform that empowers sales, service, and marketing teams with intelligent automation. Beyond that, Chetu provides Salesforce consulting to align technology with business goals, integrations to unify platforms and data, and managed services for continuous optimization. They also deliver secure data migration, full implementations, custom app development, and advanced customization and configuration to fine tune Salesforce for every user. With 25 plus years of Salesforce experience, 7,000 plus clients, and a global team of 2,800 plus developers, Chetu combines deep technical expertise with scalability, ensuring organizations get the most out of their Salesforce investments. And despite my fluffing that, I want to say a big thanks to our sponsor, Chetu. Without our sponsors, these programs don't happen. So thank you so much for your sponsorship of this event. And with that, we can move on to our speakers. So I'd like you to welcome with me Robert Sosman and Melissa Hill Dees. Robert is a senior principal architect at Akiva Labs. And I always think of Robert primarily for his sort of historic contribution to Salesforce developers in being kind of the primary driver of the PMD project, which is kind of filtered out all over the Salesforce developer ecosystem. I'll also let Robert do a brief introduction as well. Melissa, I think of mostly related to getting out there, speaking about Salesforce adoption and nonprofits. I know that's something she's super passionate about. Robert, is there anything you'd like to share about you?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I mostly want to share my excitement that I'm invited to talk about my new favorite topic, which is Agentforce. And glad you mentioned PMD. I just feel in the age of AI that things like PMD might be less important. So I would call agentic my new favorite topic. And in my role at Akiva Labs, I'm mostly working on Agentforce projects for ISV customers, and we also do a lot of internal projects. You probably have heard me talk about stuff like my org butler on conferences. So I hope I can contribute a little bit of real world agentic here.
Thanks very much, Robert. And Melissa, what would you like to share about yourself?
Oh, thanks. I agree with Robert. I'm excited to be invited, especially with Robert also being a guest. He's been an icon in the Salesforce ecosystem as long as I've been around. So it's really exciting to be on this with him. I am always asking why. I'm checking out all the new things as soon as they come out. I realized that I built my first agent. Wow, it's been a year and a half ago at least, right? Which in today's world, 18 months is a lifetime ago. And the new use cases that are coming out every day and the way that it is growing and thriving and so fast. I'm excited about that. I'm excited to be in the conversation, especially from a design standpoint and from a usability standpoint. So I think that Robert and I will probably have some interesting synchronicity here on what we think about Agentforce.
Yeah, super excited. Thanks, both of you. And 100%, a big reason why I thought of each of you in the context of this topic is both of you have a track record, in as short a time as this new world of agentic artificial intelligence has existed, let's say in the broader consciousness of technology. I think each of you have both been at the forefront of adoption. But before we dive into that, let's just talk really quickly. Let's just do a quick lightning round for warm up. Quick one. So let's rattle it off. What was the first Salesforce major release that you used when you started working with Salesforce? Melissa.
Yeah, actually, it must have been winter of 2009.
Winter 2009. Okay.
Yeah.
Same
Robert?
here. I don't know the if it was winter, but it was 2009.
Nice. And do either of you remember the API version that was at the time?
Early.
Yeah, early. So I was summer 10, and that was API version 19. So if yours was winter 2 years previously, probably around 14, I'm thinking. Yeah. Okay, next round. What's your favorite retired Salesforce feature? Robert, do you have a favorite retired Salesforce feature?
I don't know. Maybe I'm often very I'm more sad when they retire things like workflow or Visualforce. I know they didn't retire it, but it feels like nobody's using them anymore. And I was basically kicked off the skill ladder in building UI when Visualforce was not cool anymore. I never made it into the gang of the cool JavaScript kids. So I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay.
But I
Well,
but I
we'll go
can
with
learn
we'll go
more
with
about S objects.
we'll go
No,
with
how it's called S controls. That was before my time.
yeah.
Yep.
We'll go with Visualforce, I think. Melissa, do you have a favorite retired Salesforce feature?
Visualforce has been retired. See, that's wild because 2009, that was where Visualforce was really just getting started to be used. So that's how fast, right, technology changes. And I think my favorite, and it's not really retired either, but Salesforce Classic. Oh my goodness. And from a design standpoint and user experience, I was so glad to be rid of that. I was enlightening so fast it would make your head spin.
So, and just to be clear, Visualforce is not officially retired, but I get both of your points. It's not exactly
Salesforce
cutting edge
Classic is
anymore.
not. Yeah, Salesforce Classic is not officially retired
Yeah.
either, there are people out there who are still using it.
They are. All right. And favorite Dreamforce 25 highlight. And I clearly the definition of lightning round, we need to be clear on this, a sentence or two. So favorite Dreamforce 25 highlight. Who wants to go first?
Hybrid reasoning.
Oh, hybrid reasoning. Nice. Okay.
Ooh, yeah, I really like that. That's exciting and not something I've done much of yet. So I have to agree, Robert.
Okay, nice. I have to say Scale Center was mine, not an AI topic. Scale Center available to all paid customer orgs. I think everybody should be shouting that from the rooftops. So that's cool. That wraps up our lightning round. Let's talk about what the topics are we're going to cover at a high level today. What I wanted to discuss with both of you, probably in this order: Agentforce adoption across the Salesforce ecosystem, and then switching gears a little bit, talk about Agentforce adoption on projects. So things like getting user buy-in. How do you change your your user base to get them to use and adopt agentic AI, and then personal AI adoption at work, and that's really meant to focus on those of us who don't have Agentforce at work. What do we do? What do the rest of us do? That's the high level topics. You both ready to jump into this and see where we go?
Definitely.
All
Absolutely.
right, fantastic. I am going to stop sharing so we can go into bigger pictures of us. There we go. All looking very nice. So I wanted to kick off the Agentforce adoption by Salesforce customers topic by citing a statistic. So this is from our developer survey that is literally like moments away today from being finally released to the public. What we found in the developer survey, we asked developers, were they working on an AI project today? And we found that 32% reported that they were. 21% reported that they were planning on working on an AI project within the next year. And 47%, so nearly half, said no plans for a project at all. And I want to start with a fairly broad question, because from these numbers, I think also when we look at the actual numbers of customers quoted by Salesforce as compared to total number of Salesforce customers, Agentforce adoption does not seem to be at a rip-roaring pace. What is up with that? What do you think needs to happen to turn this around and to really grow Agentforce adoption among Salesforce customers? And Robert, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, really? I wanted to leave the stage for Melissa, but I this totally reflects what I see in my world and also my impression from Dreamforce. I wasn't there, but I saw the recordings of the dev keynote, and I never had dev keynotes where it was so quiet and people seemed so unimpressed. All the years they gave us a little small feature, nothing super important, but everybody was going like in an Apple convention, ooh, crazy. And here they gave something really substantial in my world, which was an improvement to this immature Agentforce that we have now. But nobody actually was amazed or so. So the sense I made of this is, there is not many people using it. The other thing is people, and that's my explanation. There's also a little bit of fear, because we live in times where it's not like developers get another superpower to be the only species that always has a job. I think we live in a land of fear, of companies having fear if they get out of business because of AI, of developers, admins, roles, and that. And I think this is also why people do not fully experiment with the new stuff. They cling to the old stuff, the niches they build in Salesforce. And you hear that in the sentiments from True to the Core, where many people ask, why is there only Agentforce? So I really believe it's a mix of fear and not knowing how big this thing is going to be.
How
I
about you,
think,
Melissa? What's your take on this?
yeah, and I think Robert's right. Some of it's fear. Fear of change is of any kind of change, right? I think that's the reason. And I don't know if you remember, talking about Lightning and Classic and how, they tried so hard to incentivize people to move to Lightning. Lightning was just a better UI, but it was so hard to convince people. And still, there are some people that haven't moved over to Lightning. I think there's a lot of that behind AI. There's a lot of, oh, it's different. And we don't like different. We don't like to change the way we think, the way we work, the way we do anything, right? That muscle memory, like, when an icon on your phone moves and you can't find it anymore because that's not where your thumb goes. I think, yes, fear. Interestingly, I've always thought that young people drove innovation and drove adopting new things. And that's not what I'm hearing from the 20 somethings, right? And even some of the early 30 somethings. They're like, AI? Are you kidding? No, we don't want AI. It's destroying the planet. It's stealing people's jobs. It's making people stupid. We don't want AI in any form. And so I think there's some of that thought process out there too that um, speaks to the ethics of AI. Which we don't always talk a lot about the ethics behind the actual work that's being done. And then the other thing is, I think we need to be cognizant using AI in places where it actually truly improves the user experience, right? Instead of using AI for the sake of using AI. And I think that's important to help with user adoption. If it really makes my life easier, I can live with some of the not so great things with it. But it's got to really improve my life, the way I do things.
So that's really interesting because that's very much a do we have the cart before the horse argument. And I know I mean, we've all heard probably people talking about um, AI, a solution looking for a problem sort of thing. I- is it? I mean, are there real problems that we can solve today that customers could solve today? Salesforce customers could solve today? And both of you are nodding. So, maybe each of you could cite an example that you've seen where, like, this is a great use case for Agentforce for a Salesforce customer.
Yes, in fact, and I'm happy to share. I didn't mean to step on you, Robert. I had a group of ladies that I did the hackathon with at TDX.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, yeah. The MH team.
yes, MH to the fourth. And we actually are all involved in community events, dreaming events,
Mhm.
learning events, and scheduling, putting together the agenda for a 2-day, 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 track event is incredibly time consuming. All the information's there, the rooms, the time slots, the presenters. But for humans, I mean, you can imagine like 15 million sticky notes that you're trying to move them all over the place. We built an agent that would do that in a matter of seconds. And that's the sort of thing that it can just process faster than we as humans can. It can take into account the information that we give it. Don't book, Peter twice in the same time slot. He's not duplicated. So to me, that's one of those use cases of, oh my goodness, why aren't they using that at universities? Can we sell it to a university? My daughter's finishing university, getting her classes scheduled for one child, you know, is a desperate thing to do. So those sorts of huge and analytic comparison, that to me is a great use case for AI. And we've done that.
So that's really, I think that's really interesting, and I'd be curious to hear, in your testing, like, have you managed to get it used by any like real life scheduling use cases? Like, how did it work? Even in the chat, there's a Joanne St. Andre who mentioned, Agentforce is inconsistent. Were you able to tackle some of those inconsistencies and get like consistent inference and output?
Well, and the biggest challenge that we had was with it truncating information, right?
Uh,
And so it did a great job of what it did, but then it would truncate the information, and that's where we are. Our goal is to be able to use it for Nonprofit Dreaming in March. So,
Okay.
so we're set to get that, all tested, straightened out, situated. And Melissa Hanson did a beautiful job of writing code. So I don't have as much inside knowledge as I normally would, because it is actually code instead of no code, low code. But it does work. It's pretty impressive to see it.
So that's like I'm gonna. So when Nonprofit Dreaming wraps up, I'm gonna pull you all onto somehow. I'm gonna get you onto SF Ben to come talk about how did it go using
Yeah.
your app. I love to circle back with that. Robert, how about you? What's a use case that you see is a like a hands down winner for a Salesforce customer?
What I recommend in my current Agentforce presentations is always to use safer, like internal uses of Agentforce. So don't do the stuff they show on Dreamforce, because where people call in a company and buy dresses.
Booking
I
travel
think
for some reason. Everybody
yeah,
seems to want to book travel with an
there must
agent.
be smoke and mirror, because I don't believe that is working. But I see two cases: employee agents. So that means you add something to the people who are already in the org, who already paid something. And I want to tell you two things. Before we at Akiva got any projects and customers on Agentforce, we did a ton of stuff for our own. Like 2 years ago, when this craze started, I built with OpenAI assistance something called my org butler, which basically worked in a Salesforce org, but was basically driven by an AI and OpenAI. And then we slowly moved that over to Agentforce and Copilot, and it's now living in the Akiva org. We can really ask questions: who has this certification? How many hours are left on this project? What is our policy for travel and work? And it does that for sure. All the Akivans who watch this, they will say, "Oh, I don't have access," or "It's inconsistent." Yes, it is, but it's also, I would say, working with Robert is also inconsistent. When I have a grumpy day, I say, read the
Never.
manual and don't ask me. So, and I really believe if you can also apply that to our ISV customers. When you have a beautiful Salesforce Managed package with 1 trillion Visual Force pages, where you have to click 11 million times to get something done, and you just add a sidebar where you can ask, "Can you do that for me?" And in 9 out of 10 cases, it actually does it. That's a benefit. And this is what I see in our ISV customers who come to us and say, "Can you actually make our Agentforce POC to an MVP?" Our customers are happy. That actually works. So yeah, that was my answer to the question, where can it be useful? And I just wanted to add another thought to your previous question, why developers fear it so much. I really see the normal developer, they are really freaking afraid of this new beast, of this software which is fuzzy. You cannot just work hard in the evening and finally get it done and then it always works. Or when the test suite runs green, you can sleep well. It's the opposite. It's like you cannot control it. And I really believe that most normal engineers, they are a little bit afraid by this new paradigm. So yeah.
So I want to jump on that in particular, because I wanted to go back into our developer survey, which I'm going to talk up again, because we worked really hard to come up with some more incisive questions this round around AI adoption. And one of the things that I found really interesting was, so we had one question that asked about what were the surveyed people's what were people's usage of AI regularly, occasionally, or not at all. And between architects, developers, and admins, and granted, the admin survey is now a good 6 months old, but developers were the highest regular users at just under 50%. Architects 46.4. Admins were 25%, 24.7. So they were the lowest regular users. Occasional users, it was fairly even. There's about 42.3 architects, 39% developers, 46.8 admins, and then not at all. Again, if you do your maths there, over 25% of admins were not using AI at all. Developers 11.7, architects 11.3. So the not using section for developers and architects is actually, I would say, on par for what I think is in the industry, and at least demonstrates curiosity, if not commitment to doing it. And then one other thing is, across architects, developers, and admins, it was almost the same numbers for are they more productive with AI? They were all right around 65% agreeing, around 30% neutral, and around 4 to 6% ish on disagreeing. So people see the productivity is what we've seen in our surveys this year. And I think that's really important to bear in mind. So, like, I don't think it's the practitioners that are standing in the way. So that was something I thought I'd put out there and think, well, if it's not the practitioners, like, what needs to happen? So I want to put a hypothetical in front of you, because Melissa, you brought up the Lightning adoption push. Do we need a Lightning Now tour for Agentforce? Is that what Salesforce should be bringing to us as a program? What do you think about that idea? Okay, I stumped you.
Well, I'm trying to think about the best way to say this, because I think to some extent that's what Salesforce is trying to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really think, in fact, if you have an opportunity to participate in a hackathon, I would encourage it, because hackathons to me are like an incredibly safe space. Too many people are afraid to fail. You don't have time to spend on extraneous things if you're like me. But Melissa and Michelle and Marissa and I took that 16 hours and set it aside, and did our best in 16 hours, a closed end. I think that's a brilliant idea on Salesforce's part, to let practitioners get in there and use it, right? Which from an adoption standpoint is wonderful. I don't know that that's what they've done it much, because the hackathons are more difficult, and for some reason they think you need cash prizes and those sorts of things. But I hope that more of that can happen, because I think that's the way forward to really getting practitioners to adopt Agentforce itself.
Actually getting them to do it. Yeah. How about you, Robert? Do you think that there's a move on Salesforce's part to bring more people to the table?
Honestly, no. I think I'm always skeptic when Salesforce pushes very hard with, making conferences and calling in Agentforce now. It's not good enough that people actually adopt it because it's good. That's my general sentiment. Steve Jobs never had to foster the adoption of the iPhone because it was good. So I would say for sure there's a lot of people who need a little push to actually do something. But I'm not Salesforce. I don't make more money when they sell more Agentforce. So if they want to push it, let them push it. I really don't care. What I care about is I see many smart engineers who they have a gut feeling. They know that something is not ripe enough not mature enough to be used. And as an engineer, as an architect, you don't need to test everything out. You also need to go to a hackathon to just feel that coding agents are not good enough to replace you. Agentforce is not good enough to actually replace standard software. So I believe Salesforce just needs to do one thing, and is improve the stuff. And I really must say that everything I saw on Dreamforce was they are doing exactly that. You know,
But you
just
still sound like you're saying that it's not ready yet.
no. I mean, you know it. When they announce something on Dreamforce, in the past they said it comes next year. Now they say it comes in November. I don't have it in my hand, but when agent builder, hybrid reasoning, you know, I don't care about those names, but I think behind there's actually real improvements in AI, which also are on other agent platforms. I think that would change a lot, because if people are able to trailhead build an agent which is actually working, it's perfect. I think then you don't need adoption, because building an agent is so terribly easy. It's really just like wrapping a flow or an Apex class with a little bit of instructions. There's really absolutely no secret to it. So I really believe when they do this, then it would spread around and everybody will talk about it.
Robert, can I ask a question, Peter?
Yeah. This is a.
I think Robert brought up a good point, and I think yes, when it works, right, then that's the fastest way to adoption is when you see it actually works, then it actually exists. And I think the big challenge is AI is not the answer always, right? So, and there are things with AI that work right now. One of the very first agent forces that I built was around a data library with 15 years worth of documentation for a product that was an absolute pain to try and dig through to find an answer to anything. With that Einstein data library and an agent, I could ask it a question and get 1, 2, 3, an answer. Super, super simple. And yes, it's very simple, right? But it worked, and it worked consistently, and it worked well, and it was fantastic. I mean, why would you not adopt that? Like you say, there's a difference when you're trying to do something like schedule, and the scheduler that we've created. Maybe it's not as perfect yet to do that.
Can I
Maybe
answer? Okay.
yeah, go
You
ahead.
said there is no reason to not adopt it. There is, and Salesforce makes it hard, because actually getting, like a year ago when I had this beautiful interview with Ben on his couch, it was freaking hard to get actually Agentforce in the hands of people, because it was not in scratch orgs, and it needed pressure from people on YouTube, hopefully, that they made this work. And I want to again put pressure on Salesforce to actually make those data cloud features, which are so needed in Agentforce, not so complicated. I want to ground my prompts in real data, and I don't want to buy $1 million data cloud project to get data grounding my prompts, but it's freaking expensive. It's expensive. Nobody knows how to do it. Every customer is reluctant to do it. And then, all the good people would now say, yeah, we're listening. It's on our roadmap, but it's a little bit too slow. And we feel that inside of Salesforce, there is this fight between making a lot of money with Data Cloud and having people understand it and see how good it is, and I'm just the guy who mentions it. I feel that Data Cloud is great, but we don't get it in our hands. So please,
And you've definitely
if you're watching,
you definitely reflect something that in the chat Megan Coley said. In our case, cost is a barrier. Agentforce is not included for free in all editions. Are others feeling this as well? And 4 people came back with a thumbs up. So, and then Dave Phillips just came back and said, hit the nail on the head. I want to try agents within a sandbox so I can see what it can do. Yeah. And then, sorry, Barry's also Barry. Good to see Barry on here. We're getting some great chat. So, yeah, and I want to get us. We do need to move on to another topic. But I wanted to reflect a little bit on what you said too about the improvements that are happening. And in my job these days, I find myself spending way too much time watching and rewatching videos and trying to interpret and parse what people from Salesforce are saying. But Steve Fisher, on that same True to the Core, he had like about a 5 to 7 minute monologue that to me sort of was like it was sort of a reflection on what's going on internally at Salesforce and the amount of work that they're doing. And then one section that he said was, just to wrap up on this and to move on to adopting, getting users to adopt, he said these things, meaning AI, agents, etc., they don't always work the way that you think that they're gonna work. That's the lesson we've been learning and relearning the past year. So literally, he said relearning twice. And I think, when you get the head of Salesforce product reflecting on, that, it just tells you what a challenge it has been to get this current technology. And I feel like we could do a whole other discussion just on, is the transformer-based architecture the right architecture? But we're not going to go there today. I'll just
We're
leave
not
that
the right
hanging
people
out
for
there.
that.
Yeah, we need to.
But
We can go watch the AI experts talk about that.
But this
So
this 7 minutes, Peter, sorry for interrupting you. It
that's
was
okay.
impressive. I shared it on LinkedIn. I
Yeah,
shared it inside of Akiva because it was the most truthful moment when they actually said it. Sorry, we even believe that Salesforce might explode if we don't put all our power into AI. We
yeah,
just don't have time to give you nice flow features. I really thought, where was this guy the last 10 years? Because he was so powerful, knowledgeable, and truthful that Parker Harris is funny, but this guy was so serious and honest, and love it.
yeah.
That was a goosebump moment.
I think a lot of product teams have been doing a really good job of getting features delivered, both in spite of and because of Agentforce that aren't directly Agentforce related. But I have a whole other thing on that. So let's talk a little bit about Agentforce adoption by users in a project. And I think Melissa, you alluded to the customer agent recently. Um, I think there's a lot that we need to bring to the table to help users adopt that are probably tools that we already use for user adoption. But are there any differences in change management, organizational management, business process? Does any of that change in the world of Agentforce and agentic adoption? Melissa, do you want to kick this off?
See, I don't think so. I think the challenges that we have with user adoption are the same regardless, right? Like I say, people don't like change. They don't want to do things differently unless you can. I'm not even going to think about it unless you can make my life easier. If you can make my life simpler. I mean, I have been amazed and astounded at the links that people will go to not to have to use something new. I mean, salespeople that have created entire systems in Excel outside of Salesforce, not to have to use Salesforce the way that, management wants them to use Salesforce. Why did they do that? Either they didn't have any input to start, or it's not solving what their problem is. It may be solving management's problem, but it's not solving the salesperson's problem. And that is the same whether it's AI, whether it's a chatbot, whether it's clicking and entering information. And in fact, that's what I'm presenting on next week is, you architect this fantastic project, but then do you architect the experience? So is anybody actually going to adopt it? And I think that holds true regardless of whether it's AI or not.
How about you, Robert? Have you seen any difference in what it takes to get users to adopt agentic functionality?
In comparison to what?
Well, in comparison to any other feature that might have been built in pre-agentic world, the pre-agentic world of software.
I don't have a lot of experience, but I have a deep belief. I have a belief that agentic software in the form as it is now will be adopted much more easy because there is no UI and UX in the way. The software speaks the way the user speaks. if I show my boss a video where I talk to my org butler and find out how much budget is left on a project without going into financial force and asking for permissions to build reports, he just loves it. Everybody understands it. So for me, AI is not a new thing. It's just an evolution of technology like we always had. And it's finally the one that bridges the gap between language and code. So so I would make a bet. I would bet money on that AI generally helps with adoption, because I believe user interfaces and clicking and user manuals will go away. I even believe that software development in a way goes away, but it's just a cliffhanger.
So in response to that, though, Robert, let me ask you if you did the Halloween trick or trailhead module, so you can get the little Halloween button.
I
Did you
never
do
did
that?
that stuff. No, I did not, but I will do when
I did.
somebody.
And I was surprised because basically what I walked away with was how to use AI in the clunkiest way possible. Right? So it was really teaching people that you could use AI to do all the things that you've always done in Salesforce. But in the use case that they had, for me personally, it seemed much simpler to use to use Salesforce the way it was intended to be used instead of putting the AI feature in. So again, it's back to, AI is not the answer for everything. It's like, I want to lose weight. Oh, well, here's AI. That's not the answer to everything, right?
I would. Okay, I don't want to be too provocative, but I would say AI is the answer to most software-related questions we have in our world, because it will help us. Because for me, AI is like an ingredient which makes all those problems go away, which we had in the past. We needed software developers and nerds that could talk to the customer and translate it into machine code. I hope not before I retire, but I envision a world where actually all those consultants, those McKinseys, those admins, those developers are basically, they need to find a new job, because people that actually use software, they just build it on the fly or they build it before. And aha moment was for me when at Dreamforce they said that they're moving Agent Builder from setup into the normal Salesforce. That for me was a sign that in the future it's not us techies shielding, or what's the word,
Gatekeeping, is that what you're?
gatekeeping. Oh yeah, my
Mhm.
favorite Salesforce community word. We're not gatekeeping. It still needs people that connect the old legacy code world, but I really would make a bet that AI was the breakthrough that breaks this barrier. So I honestly believe, I don't tell my daughters to become a software engineer anymore, and I would have done 5 years before.
So what about things like governance and ensuring, regulation, compliance?
Mhm.
If what does that look like to adopt as a company? Um, you know, or are you saying that, like, or maybe that there will still be specialized people who are like tasked with it, but it could be anybody? What does that look like for you, Robert?
I mean, I think humans will still need people for this accountability game. We need to have people that we can fire, and people don't want to get fired, so they are in fear, so they make sure things work. Probably we cannot do that with AI agents, but honestly, I believe that AI is much better in governance. AI doesn't sleep. AI didn't had a fight with his wife yesterday. So I really believe that AI is better in most things. So watching if things work, I would like in the long run, trust AI more. But for sure, there need to be people who make it work and make decisions. I don't think people will go away, but it's more like Robert instructs the agent to check the governance. I
So
don't see that. That's why I made this PMD comment. I really think, honestly, the time of PMD and stuff is over. You don't need anyone to check if the code is appropriate with a static linter anymore. There's
I'm going to
much
push
better
a
ways.
I'm going to push a little bit more on this, because so what you created in PMD was 100% deterministic. It's a rule. The same rule will always execute the same way. Are we at a place today, or when will it be at a place where AI will actually get there? And just to bring something else into focus, there was an interesting video. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, by Andrej Karpathy, former head of AI for Tesla. He said we've got at least another 10 years before what everybody is promising we can do with these current agents and this current technology will actually come to fruition. What are your thoughts on that? Let's have this be the last question, and then we'll move on to what do our
I'm
audience
sorry,
do for
Melissa,
adoption.
for talking so long. I just want to say I watched this interview. It was great. He said he made some extra points. He said agents can be useful today for some things, like coding agents, where you basically have a deterministic loops, which tools you are calling, and you have forgiving developers who still oversee the full process. I think he made this distinction. So I think agents can be useful today, but as we envision them and how Dreamforce keynotes show them, I would say that's far ahead.
Including your statement about agents, or like AI is better at most things than people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, absolutely. That's where I was going. Melissa, your thoughts, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I think you're right. My thought is eventually, yes, AI, like I say, AI can be much faster a lot of times than I can be, right? And not just because I'm old, but I don't think we're there yet. I read an interesting use case where, I don't know, it was making decisions, the AI was making decisions, and it literally, of course, everybody's big fear that they're going to take over the world and, just kill people off because we're the worst thing on the planet, right, for the planet's health. I don't think we're anywhere near not needing people yet. I do think there are things that AI can do much better right now. From security, of course, working with Easy Protect and with Matt Myers and with the work that we're doing, and looking at how security can be not only how AI can be useful in helping you keep your Salesforce org secure, but how you make sure that AI is not the source of a breach, right? I mean, AI is reaching out into all these places that, we used to feel like we had control over, I guess, because of APIs. And now suddenly it's just a wild, wild west out there.
And
And
there's already been a prompt injection attack that was successful against Salesforce. So
exactly.
through the web to lead form, right?
So the security and the governance and and again, like I said, the ethics, there are ways to instill the ethics in there that we as responsible humans with children, they're going to have to live in this world after we're gone, should really take into account. So I think there are so many ways that humans still need to be involved, at least until, you, Robert, and you, Peter, and I retire. Maybe by then our children won't have to do anything because AI will do everything. But I don't think that's today.
Yeah. Wonderful. So let's move on. Again, going back to the first statistic I shared about the number of projects that are actually out there by Salesforce developers, only 50. So there are no, sorry. Yeah, only 50% or just over are actually either working on or planning to work on a project, which means half of people out there don't have any prospect for the near future to do Agentforce work, what should they be doing? If I'm stuck, twiddling my thumbs on the Agentforce sidelines, what should I be doing to prepare myself and to actually build what I need to as a professional so that I can be ready? Who wants to go first this time?
Melissa,
Well,
you. No, I was always first.
no, it's okay.
You guys are
I,
so polite.
and the one good thing about AI is that maybe not an agent force, although it is. I mean, through Trailhead, you can get, and they're not just, thank goodness the orgs are not limited to like 5 days like they were when we started. I don't know if
Mhm.
you all remembered that.
I remember that. Yep.
A massive panic. I never got anything finished in 5 days.
Yeah.
But
Who has 5 days of free time to do anything in this job? Yep.
so yes, build things, get in on Trailhead, find out about it, find out, create your own opinions, and then the availability of things. I have had no idea how many different AI, I don't even know what the right word is, paradigms there were, right? So ChatGPT, of course, I started using ChatGPT, I don't know, 2 years ago, and Claude and Perplexity and on and on. The list goes on and on and on and on. And most of them have some sort of free version that you can use. And why would you not? Right? Especially if you don't look like Robert or Peter. If you look more like me, or you look like Akash, or you look like, other folks that aren't normally in power in the ecosystem, because you're helping train. I mean, that's what you're doing when you're playing on AI. You're helping train that AI, but do it. Because if you're not helping train it, someone else is.
That's a really good point. Yeah, 100%. You got Gabby Caballero's attention there, so well done. How about you, Robert? What are your thoughts on if somebody were to come to you and say, I can't do anything with Agentforce right now. It's not, I'm not allowed to use it. We're not adopting it. What should I do to bring my skills up to date with what's current today?
Yeah, Melissa said a lot. I mean, we're lucky that we don't need to ask anybody for permission to learn and play around. I mean, the snarky side in me would say that was always the case. If you ask your boss for permission to learn, then you should switch jobs. I think in the tech industry, but I get your point, Melissa. Not everybody just can do that, and I really think Trailhead is really good on that. So you can learn, you can build your own stuff. But there's also great other places to go. So what I personally do, because I also learned about AI just in the last 2 years, there's other great learning platforms like from Andrew Ng, this deep learning AI. They have great short courses that you can just squeeze between two meetings. And the with AI as coding tools, it's so easy to just learn a little bit of Python. I remember back then you had like Java books that were like that thick and you needed months to just learn a new language. And now you can basically just ask Cursor, hey, Cursor, how do I do that in Python? So, and that brings you in the mood, doing a little bit of Agentforce and seeing what's outside of Salesforce, then having the superpower of agentic coding agents, or, they can be used by non-developers. Melissa, I think that was your point. At Akiva, I see pre-sales people who come from a consulting background and never wrote any line of code, just make impressive demos because they now have this wonder magic wand. So yeah, so I think AI helps us to learn AI even with little time because it speeds us up so much. And as learning is also failing and there's no risk and no governance, let the AI just vibe code something and then explain it in language to you.
So that's really great advice from both of you. I agree. Like you have to go and use it. It's almost becoming a cliche now, but you hear this repeated quite a bit. you won't lose your job to AI. You will lose it to someone who has learned AI, I think is something that I hear and repeat over and over again. So let me ask this one final question, and then we'll try and pull a few things out of the chat and the Q&A. What is one essential tool from each of you that you found that you're using besides Agentforce and AI tool? And I'm going to start with you this time, Robert.
I mean, I'm lucky as an architect to also do a lot of coding, and I could not do anything without having my GitHub Copilot or Cursor. I mentioned the two of them because I don't want to type. I want to rant. I want to speak with a microphone to my agent. So like voice and AI agents, I also don't use Claude, even if it's better, like the website or Perplexity, because they don't have a microphone symbol. So talking to AI to give my instructions and telling it how bad it is, that's really cool for me. I also love the read it aloud, because sometimes I'm just do some coding, some easy coding, and I want to listen to something. That's, yeah. So, and maybe the most important thing is maybe, ChatGPT. And at Akiva, we have like a company ChatGPT, which is connected to Slack and Google Drive and emails and calendar and GitHub. And that is just so beautiful to just ask what happened in the last week. So yeah, Cursor with microphone and ChatGPT with in-company knowledge. That's those two superpowers.
Which model are you using in Cursor?
Mostly a Claude Sonnet for 5.
Okay.
But
you're in the Claude camp then.
Yeah. And recently I also switched to Agent Code Vibes because I just want to try it out. And sometimes you don't even see the model you have there, and yeah, it's also quite useful if it's not too complicated for the code.
Cool. Melissa, how about you? Your one essential AI tool besides Agentforce?
And 3 weeks ago, I would have said ChatGPT, because I talk to it, Robert, not audibly, because I'm sometimes a faster typer than I am talker, which is hard to believe, I know, but I like having that conversation with ChatGPT, and I've used it so much, not for technical work, but for outlining a presentation or getting me started on an outline for a blog post, those sorts of things. But I just recently really started using Claude and was amazed and astounded, because when I wrote code, it was a long, long, long time ago, and it was COBOL and it was Fortran. And, I don't write Python. I don't write Apex. I don't write JSON or JavaScript. And for Claude to do that for me, what I struggled in ChatGPT because I didn't know enough about the code itself to tell ChatGPT where it was wrong so that it could correct itself. And with Claude, it seems to do that. Of course, I've run up against the wall in both cases now, where they get to the point where either one of them will make the same mistake over and over and over and over again, no matter what you tell it. And I haven't figured out how to get past that yet.
It seems like that there's a lot more reports of that going on. So, yeah. Well, I think, Melissa, you got the last word. We're coming right up on time for 5 o'clock here in the UK, which means it's time to wrap up and go back and thank our sponsors. So, Robert, Melissa, you're welcome to pop off the stage. I'm going to try and share my screen properly this time. Let me just get my slideshow going. And all right, I think done much more smoothly this time. Except I lost that window. There we go. All right. So once again, huge thank you to Chetu, our sponsor, for this amazing interview webinar, panel webinar with Robert and Melissa. Now let's take a look at how Chetu helps companies implement Agentforce using their proven 5-step agentic AI accelerator framework. Chetu's Agentic Accelerator Framework gives organizations a clear step-by-step path to adopting Agentforce and achieving results quickly and sustainably. It starts with step 1, discover objectives, defining measurable goals for how Agentforce will impact KPIs such as velocity, lead routing, and case resolution times. Step 2, design objectives, focuses on evaluating the Salesforce environment and connecting external resources like ERP systems, unstructured data, or support platforms to build a unified AI-ready data layer. Step 3, develop Agentforce configuration, brings those plans to life. Chetu's developers implement layouts, flows, and accelerators tailored to specific roles using tools like Flow Orchestrator and Lightning components. Step 4, deploy multi-channel assistance. They launch Agentforce features both within Salesforce and across external channels, such as websites, ERPs, or back-office systems, backed by hands-on training and support. Finally, step 5, deliver ongoing optimization and scale, ensures continuous improvement. Chetu monitors adoption, retrains AI models, and expands Agentforce capabilities across new teams and business units, creating a living, evolving system that grows with the organization. For companies considering Agentforce, Chetu offers a free readiness assessment, which includes an AI readiness scorecard, a quick win automation plan, and a tailored action roadmap. You can scan the QR code on screen to get started. In short, Chetu makes Agentforce adoption structured, measurable, and scalable, helping businesses turn AI potential into real-world performance. So once again, thank you so much to Chetu. I'm afraid we're out of time for Q&A. Because we just wanted more of Robert and Melissa. I really appreciate everybody who popped a question in there. I would encourage you to continue this discussion online. We have some posts out there about this webinar. Feel free to ping Robert or Melissa with any of those questions. And in fact, that little blurb by Chetu made me even think of one question I'd really wanted to get into, which is, and I'll just leave this out for everyone to consider, is your AI agent a coworker, or is it just an automation? So with that, this is Peter Chittum saying thank you very much for joining this Salesforce Ben webinar, and we hope to see you at an upcoming webinar or other event very soon. Thank you. Bye.